Exercise 3. In this exercise, we take a look at the functionality inside CREO as far as what we call secondary feature modeling. It means that there's multiple features that we're going to generate, and we'll also put fillets and draft and other elements in here as well. The goal is to create this part that you see right here, which is a ratchet. It's like a forged ratchet. So it's going to have elements of draft. It's going to have several different pockets and recesses that we're going to build. We're going to learn how to create offsets inside CREO and some other neat little tricks. So let's begin. Start off drawing this sketch. It's going to be, we're going to have a 1.2 inch diameter circle at the origin and 0.75 above that. So start a new part file, call it E. So save it as E3 and hit OK. Select the front plane and start your sketch. Go to the AB button and go to front. And now select the circle tool, which is center and point. Click at the origin and drag out a circle. Draw out the circle in the middle, click a couple times. Change that to the 1.5 inch dimension. Actually, it's supposed to be 1.2, my mistake. Double click 1.2. Draw a second circle above it on the center line, and this one will be 1.5. Remember, if they're both accidentally made them equal, click on the equal R and then hit delete. This is going to be 1.5, and double click on this. This is going to be 0.75. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and draw on tangent arcs. So if you click on the line tool, you'll find line tangent. Click on that and click on this line here and drag it down to this line. Notice the little tangent symbols, the little T's, indicate that there's tangency met between those arcs. And there as well. Middle click a couple times to get out of the tool. And now we'll use the trim tool, which is delete segment, it's called. It's right up here. Click on that. And the way it works is you just click and drag through, erasing the geometry that's excess. Now that might look clean and good, but it's not. Take a look at the bottom sides and click over here and clean these up as well. Can't be any fragments left behind, or else it will not work. Lay out the dimensions, and now you could go to hit the OK button and extrude. Now with the extrusion here, let's take a look. In this case, we want to extrude it so it's going to be divided a total of 1 inch on both sides. So it'll be a ½ inch on the front, ½ inch on the back side of the plane. Instead of doing a mid-plane here, we'll just draw one direction, 0.5, and you'll see under options there is add taper. This is going to need a -7 degree taper on it. So type in -7, hit enter, and hit the green check mark. Now we need to mirror that to the other side. So the mirror tool, just select the model anywhere so it's highlighted. Go to the mirror tool up here. This is for mirroring features. It's different from the sketch mirror that we used earlier. This is for mirroring 3D models. And then the mirror plane will be this back underside face. Be careful, there's the front face. You don't want that. If you go to the AB button and go to default or standard orientation, it's not this front face. You have to rotate it around to get to the back face. And then hit the green check mark. And it should mirror it. Now that we have the head completed, you can click on the AB button and go to standard orientation. Our next goal is to create a small recess on the front face that will actually allow for a plate to be modeled into the part as an assembly during its construction. So for this, we're going to use the offset tool. So we want to go to the make sure nothing is selected in advance. Click on sketch and then select that front face. Over here, hit the sketch button again to apply it. And now we could go to the offset entities tool. It's just offset. Click on offset. Over here on the right, you'll see single, chain, or loop. Go with loop. Select the front face, and it will select all the outer edges for us. As long as the arrow is pointing inward, this yellow arrow, that's a good sign. That means it's going to offset whatever number we put in will be offset on the inside. If it's flipped outward, you could type in a negative number. Clicking, unfortunately, on this little arrow doesn't always work. So you might have to type in a negative number. So for that, we need an offset of approximately 0.125. So type in 0.125 and hit the green check mark. And there it is. Now we could take that geometry, hit OK, go to extrude, and we want to extrude it into the model. So we could hit this little arrow here, or you could hit this reverse direction button. Hit remove material and type in 0.125 for the depth. And hit the green check mark. And now we've constructed a recess. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and draw in a pocket. And so go to this, make sure nothing is selected, middle mouse button a couple times to get out of anything. Go to sketch and select the floor of the recess down here. On the right, hit sketch, and you could go to AB and go to the front view orientation. We're going to proceed to draw in a couple circles here. And we're going to use the concentric circle tool. The concentric circle tool is found under the circle tool here, and you'll find concentric. You can click on that, select any of these edges on the outer radius, drag it in, and make it a little bit smaller than the recess. Click, and then middle click to end the cycle of making circles there. Do the same over here. Click on this edge, drag it in a little bit smaller, but make sure that they're intersecting the other circle, and then middle click once you've gotten two circles there. Change the dimensions to follow the print in the book. 0.75 by 1. So this will be 1 inch. This will be 0.75. Now we need to trim out that excess material. So you could go to the trim tool here, delete segment, and click and drag through both sides. Hit OK, and now go to extrude. Flip the directional arrow and type in 0.7 and hit remove material and hit the green check mark. Now that we have some features up on here, on the left hand side you'll see the features are listed in the feature tree. They just give them generic names like extrude 1, 2, and 3. Maybe we want to name them to something that is more relevant. You don't have to do this, but you could click on them twice by clicking once on the text and then count 1/1000, click a second time, so you're given a little distance gap between clicks. It allows you to edit the text, and in this case I'm going to call this the head. Now extrude 2, I'm going to click 2 times on that slowly. So click once, count 1/1000, click a second time, and this is going to be the recess. And extrude 3 will be the pocket. And then just click anywhere to end that. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to learn how to create offset planes. In this case, the top plane, if we turn on our planes up here, click on plane display. The top plane can be used as an offset to generate another plane that will allow us to draw a circle, which will be used as the transition section between the handle and the head. So it's basically just a rod. So we could take that top plane and with it selected, go to the plane tool. What it will do will give us a little arrow. We could click on the directional arrow so we want it to go down. We could even drag the little handle, that little white handle turns black once you grip onto it. And you could drag it till you get to 4 inches. You might have to zoom out. I'm using the scroll button to zoom out. And there's 4 inches. So you could drag it to 4 or type in over here 4 inches or double click on there and type it in. But hit OK. And now we could go to the sketch tool and select that sketch, that datum 1, to start our new sketch. So that's the first time we've actually constructed a new plane to sketch on. There's many more ways to do that, and we'll go through that. So now go to the circle tool, center and point, and at the center of the crosshairs, click and drag out a circle. Middle click a couple times. That allows you to bring up the dimension, and then type in 0.5. At this point, we just hit OK, extrude, reverse the direction up there, but this might be a harder task than we think because we're trying to find the median in between there where it doesn't intersect the cavity that's in that hole. Let's take a look at our tools over here on the upper left and see what we have. In this case, there's an extend up to next surface. Click on that and then hit apply. And so it knew to extend up to the next condition and stop. So we didn't have to do any measuring with that one. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select the front plane again and start a sketch and draw our handle. So you can pre-select the sketch tool or select the front plane, either one, doesn't really matter. Now go to AB and go to the front and zoom out a little bit. Make some room for the handle to be drawn. The next item here, we're going to go ahead and take the corner rectangle. And off to the right here, draw what would look like the handle offset a little bit onto the right. Make sure there's no equal lengths. It should be vertical and H's only. Click, the middle click a couple times. And what I want to do here is we're put in the dimensions that are required. So it's going to be 4 inches in length. And the width of this is going to be 0.75. And let me just verify that in the manual here. Yeah, so it's going to be 1 inch actually. So double click on that, make it 1 inch wide. Now what you can do, you can actually take construction mode here and draw a line at the midpoint. Look at that, that little M. So once you select the line tool here, construction mode, you could draw from the midpoint a center line vertically. Now the length doesn't matter so much, just go ahead and draw that out. But now middle click a couple times and grab that center point and drag it, and we want to actually lock that into the origin here. And actually it's not just doing that very easily. So what we can do is actually just drag this over here like so. And this dimension that appears is actually a midpoint dimension, so that overall length and width of the handle will be 1 inch, so we want to make this half, so 0.5. Change this to 1, and change this back to 4 if that happened to you. So my centerline trick didn't work like I'd expected. We could have added a relationship, but this is actually just as easy. So it's centered. Now we'll go ahead and we'll extrude this. Hit OK. Go to extrude. The extrusion thickness for this is only going to be in one direction at 0.375. Okay, so we hit enter. And then also we're going to go over here to options and extrude with the taper. And we want -7 degrees of draft on there. And hit apply. I'm going to turn off my planes and point display. And now I just want to mirror that section of the handle over. So again, just like before, we have to select what we want to mirror. So click on the bottom side here, go to the mirror tool, and select the bottom surface to mirror about, and hit the apply. And there it is. Okay, the last thing we want to do is we want to start adding some fillets on the handle, some rounds so no one cuts themselves on that they ever hold it. So we go to the round tool, type in 0.1, and select the 4 corners that make up the sharpest edges. Stay away from this center. You don't need to add any radius to that or round. And then also apply this to the edges of the head. Notice it propagates around tangent faces. And hit the green check mark. Go back to the rounds tool and finish it off with 0.06 rounds for this edge here, this one here, this one here, that there, and then the transition section, tops and bottoms where the faces intersect. The last thing that I skipped here and I forgot to put in were the holes. Let's go ahead and select the sketch tool and start a sketch on this bottom surface. Hit sketch, and let's get in some concentric holes there. So again, use concentric. At this point, we could use our concentric circle tool. Select the inner edge, draw a circle there. Middle click to exit out of the circle tool temporarily. Click on this edge. Make sure the R's match up. See the little green R's? It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but there's 2 R's for radius, meaning they're equal. Middle click, change it to 0.375, and now proceed to go to OK, extrude, flip the direction, and make sure you select Remove Material. Since this is a through all operation, select the through all option, which is right here. Extrude to intersect with all surfaces. Hit the green check mark to apply. That pretty much completes the exercise, but I'd like to show you as a little extra bonus how to put in extruded text or embossed text or engraved text. What you do is you start a sketch and select where you want to put the text on. So like this flat surface here will work really well. Hit sketch. Then you take the centerline tool, or actually you could take construction mode and line, and locate where you'd want the text to be. Like you're drawing the baseline for the text. So I want it to start right about there to right about here. Okay. Now with that selected, turn off construction mode. Click on it again to turn it off. Go to the A, that's right there, that's for text, and glide up to this point that you drew. Click and drag up the vertical length or height of the letters that you want for the text. So I'm just going to eyeball it right here. Click. You could type in a value, but in this case, start typing in what you'd like to put on. I can put in CREO 2.0. Now with the text options here, you have the ability to, now don't make it too long or don't put a very long name in it, otherwise you'll have to shorten it or make it smaller by adjusting the font. But notice that there's the slant angle you could adjust. The aspect ratio, you could squeeze it down, so if you have a very long name, you could use this to reduce it or extend it. You could change the font. The Omega or bold italic works really well. There's several others in there that work well. There's some that don't work well. Beware, script text does not do very well on here. Something that looks like cursive writing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Usually you have to use the aspect ratio to spread it out further so they don't intersect each other. If there's any text intersecting, like if that O was intersecting this E, it would not work. It failed to correct it. So just be aware of that. I'm going to put a little bit more of a slant on it and hit OK. Now that that's there, hit OK again, and you could go to extrude. Now if you want to emboss, just continue on the path of extruding up a depth of 0.03. Or if you want to engrave that, you could flip the arrow and hit remove material. and then it will cut it into the part. And that completes exercise 3. Now there is a lab 3, that's in there. You could give it a shot, as well as lab 3B. I'll begin with lab 3. Again, spoiler alert, I usually recommend that you try it on your own, but if you have challenges, you can always watch these. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file here. I'm going to call it L3. Actually, I'm going to call I'll do L3B first because that's the easier one actually. That's a review from L2. Just squeeze this in so I can fit it to the recording area. And with this one, I'm just going to select the front plane and start a sketch. And all you do in this case is you take and draw some center lines. Draw a vertical center line. That's it. For lab 3B, the intent here is to actually draw this profile that we could see in the print provided. We have a half-inch radius that's going to be, we'll put that on last. There's a through hole of 1 inch, which is what you see here. So that's this bottom edge. So that gives us some things to work with as far as scale. And the overall length of this angled line is 1.5. So we could go ahead and take our line tool now, click and drag out a short little angled line, just like that. Middle click a couple times. This is going to be the diameter. So instead of 1.0, we'll type in 0.5 because it's technically a radius. Go to the normal tool and click on the line and drag to the far left and middle click. And actually, I was hoping to get more of a vertical line, but that's okay. This is just to get us close to the marker for scale. We'll just delete this once we're done. So there's our scale or our size. We could delete that now. Okay, we're going to keep the 0.5 in. The angle, if we take a look at the print, is going to be 0.25 off the center. So we could use our normal tool again. Select this line and the center line. Middle click, 25 degrees. And then we could also go from point to point, and then middle click, and that gives us the exact height then, 1.5. And from here we could continue on drawing the rest of the geometry. So this gets dragged out a little bit horizontally, drag it down, and try and find the parallel, automatic parallel relationship. Otherwise, if you can't get it, you could force it with clicking on parallel there, but you don't need to do that right now. You'll see it will snap to parallel. Click and drag this out horizontally, find parallel once again, drag this in, click and drag down, find parallel, and connect. Then middle click. Now we could add the last of the dimensions. So we go to normal here, we click on this line, and middle click up here, and that's going to be 0.375. We could select this line and this line, middle click right down here. That's going to be 0.25, and then click on this angled line here to this line here, middle click up here. So it'll be 2.25, and then the height of each of those is 0.25 off the bottom edge, 0.25 thick. So from this bottom edge to this bottom edge here, middle click, 0.25. This is going to be, again, we're getting that, we'll just hit enter and delete that. And in this case, we just have to force it through selecting both edges like that, 0.25. And that's it. We can now go ahead and hit OK. Go to Revolve. Remember, if it doesn't give you the revolve option automatically, you can always turn on the CSYS and then select the Y-axis. That will work. Now that it's revolved 360 degrees, hit the check mark. And then just go to the round tool and 0.5 and select this edge in the center. Apply. There it is. The next one is E3, or I should say L3. L3 for lab 3. Okay. We will start with this one on the front plane. Start a sketch. And begin by drawing the same one we started with the exercise 3. Vertical center line. And then go ahead and select the circle tool. Center and point. Drag out a small circle. And if we look at the print here, it's going to be a radius of 0.6. So that will mean that this needs to be 1.2 diameter. Now from there, we could go ahead and we could draw off some tangent arcs. Actually, we'll do that in a little bit. We actually want to draw the next, we'll go ahead with tangent lines here. Click, drag that off. It's going to make it a little bit more challenging. That's okay. I'm going to just go ahead and draw the circle for the second diameter at the top. Click and drag that out. And that needs to be 1.5, so that means 3 inches in diameter. And then the distance between the centers is 2 inches. Alright, at this point, now I can actually use that tangent tool. Select this line, and then you could connect, just draw it over here. Wants to go tangent on both, but that's okay. We'll just make it tangent on both. Then what we do is we just delete that T there. Click on the T. I middle clicked a couple times to get out of the mode, and then delete that. At this point, now you can see that top arc is not supposed to be tangent, so that's good. We just want to move it down a little bit. And that dimension on the print is going to be, actually, it's going to be called out by an angle. So we'll go ahead and we'll mirror that across. So select the line that you want to mirror, go to the mirror tool, select the center line, and there we have it. Now we could go to the tool for dimensioning, the normal tool, and dimension between those two, and that's going to be 35. Alright, at this point, we have a dimension between the centers of 2 inches. Oh, we got that. Okay, now we could actually trim out the centers. So we go over here to the trim tool, delete segment, and just clear that geometry out. There's a lot of little lines, so you got to get rid of all of them, and even zoom up. Don't leave any fragments behind. It's very common that these little ones are missed by students, so just be aware that you clean out those. Okay. And we could hit OK, and now we could go to extrude. Now this gets extruded with draft 16 degrees, and it's going to be a thickness of 0.610. 0.610, and then go to options, add taper, and -16, and hit apply. Alright, at this point now we could go ahead and add the chamfer that goes around the front. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not a chamfer, it's a fillet that's going to go around the front. The radius is going to be 0.25 in the front, 0.5 in the rear. Normally, you would select the larger radiuses and put those in first. This one works better with the round of the smaller one, 0.25 first. Click on this face, or this edge, hit apply. Go to the round tool again, 0.5, select this edge, apply. Okay, the next thing is let's select this the sketch tool and select this front face and start a sketch. Just middle click a couple times. We could take the concentric circle tool. We need to put a hole right in the middle. So draw that out and then 1 inch through. Hit OK. Extrude. Flip the direction. Remove material. Through all. Now the next thing after that is go to Sketch, select this face, Sketch, and we're going to go ahead and draw a rectangle in here. Just like that, kind of centered. Eyeballing it right now, but once we get the parameters in, it's going to be 0.25 across, and so it's 0.125 or a halfway marker, and this is going to be 0.2 to the base, and then this length, you could probably make this 2.5. Oh, actually, what, 1.5? There we go. Notice it extends beyond the boundary. That's fine, just as long as it doesn't stop before the boundary of that area. Now we can hit OK, go to the extrude, flip it, remove material, 0.25 deep, hit apply. Actually, I made a little mistake there. It's actually supposed to be 0.25 from this edge. So I can click on this, double click on that surface, double click on the dimension that I need to change, type in 0.25, and it will fix it. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and flip it around the back. Middle click a couple times to make that go away. And then from here, we're going to start a sketch. So click on Sketch and select the back face. This is not a typical shell command we're using. If you look at the print, it's only a 0.25 deep extrude cut with an offset of 0.1. So again, we get to use the offset tool. Find offset. We'll go with loop, select the whole face, and hit next until you see the outside highlight in like red. Hit accept. The arrow's pointing outward, so that means if it's going to go inward, we need to put in a negative value. So negative 0.1, hit enter. Hit close. Hit OK. Extrude. Flip it. Make sure it goes 0.25 deep, and remove material, and add taper. Minus 16. In this case, I'm seeing, I must have forgot the minus there. Okay. If you see a preview where it's separating the two volumes, then make sure you type in a minus ahead in front of there. Apply. And then you can change it to the gold color that's in the book. So if you go to the render tools, go to appearance gallery, and there's different brass and different materials you can select. There's bronze, there's polished brass. I'll go with polished brass. And then down here, instead of all, hit the little arrow and you want to find part. Now you can't see that, but change that to part. And then select the whole part. And then hit OK. As far as the text goes, adding the text in here, you need to go back to Model, Sketch, select this face, Sketch, go Normal to by going click on Front, and then what we can do is use concentric circle, or better yet, we can use the center and ends. And normally it's kind of hard to, actually we'll just use the concentric circle. Select the edge, drag out a small circle, a little bit larger than the internal diameter, click, then middle click. Change that circle to construction by right-clicking on it. And now we can use that with our text tool. Click on where you want to start it, draw the line up, perpendicular, and type in ECC Corp. Now, make sure you click on this checkbox down below here, place along curve. Select the curve, and you'll see it start to show up in there. To reverse it, here's a flip switch. Okay, and hit OK. Now, if you need to center it, just drag this down. Oops. Do what I anticipated it would do. Let me double click on the text to bring back the options here. See if we could adjust the aspect ratio. And now we could just go to File. Actually, I'm sorry, we need to hit OK. Extrude. Again, if you want it embossed, you could raise it 0.03, or if you want to cut, engrave 0.03, hit remove material, and hit the check mark. And that is Lab 3.